Hello and welcome. My name's Tim Shank.
And I'm Bryan McAvoy. This is Two Cyborgs and a Microphone. Tim and I refer to ourselves as recreational cyborgs because we have augmentations, but they're not medical and they're not necessary for us to keep our jobs. Even though I use my RFID to unlock my computer, I would still have my job without it.
So we made a list of some people who leverage their augmentations to be better at their jobs or augments that are necessary for them to maintain their current job performance.
So I think a good place to start is the artist Neil Harbison.
Okay.
Neil Harbison is achromatic.
That means he sees no color.
Right.
So it's all something like grayscale.
Yeah, exactly. Neil Harbison got his passport photo with this device. It's a camera that hangs above his head, and it relays the color he's looking at to a frequency he can hear. And he uses this unique perspective on color to devise paintings based on sound waves and speeches, for example. He uses it in his normal everyday life just to perceive the world in a way similar to us.
So he essentially hears color.
Exactly that.
Okay. Yeah, he's real interesting to me. I've seen a few videos by him and maybe one or two more about him. And it's really unique and innovative what he's doing.
It is. And if you haven't checked out his TED Talk, definitely go check it out. It's, 15 minutes, and it's really interesting. He's a neat guy to listen to.
I think in that TED Talk, he plays the colors he hears for the audience.
I don't remember if that...
And I wondered what you thought of that.
I don't remember if they did that in the TED Talk. I don't know if I've ever heard what he hears.
Okay, well, I've seen something. I don't know. Like I say, I've seen a few videos on him or by him. And one thing I think that maybe is a hardware limitation or something, he doesn't seem to hear gradients. So when I look at anything, I'm seeing a range of colors, a lot of times lighter, there's wherever the light is reflecting most off of, it's more white. And then further away from that point, it gets to be a darker shade of that color. The videos I've seen are the one that he was actually playing the colors he hears. It didn't seem to have that. It was all very sharp differences in the tones, which changes his perspective, I'm sure, very different. It must be a very different perspective than what I see.
Yeah, I guess I would imagine that would be like if you looked at an apple, the tone would tell him that thing is red, and it's up to him to decide, okay, that corner over there is in shadow and that corner over there is, facing the light source. But I don't know.
Well, it kind of brings to mind, if he's achromatic, he sees the color, not the color. He sees the difference in brightness, but he hears the actual color. So I wonder if maybe as his brain is processing this information, somehow the two are merged. That would be an interesting thing to understand.
Yeah, that would be neat. So next on our list is 3 Square Market. They're a company out of Wisconsin, which is right next to us, Minnesota. Well, right next to Tim. I'm in Reno right now. 50 of their 80 employees got implants so that they could enter the building using the RFID and even make purchases on the company's vending machines.
And now that company, that's what they do, is vending machines, right?
Right.
So I think their system, what they're trying to build, is vending machines that you can scan your implants, and it remembers who you are and somehow understands how much balance you have on account, right?
Right. And that's basically what credit cards do, except they're in your wallet instead of in your hand.
Right. Interesting. I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've forgotten money when I was at a checkout line, but it's happened, and that's embarrassing. I wish I could play it off a lot smoother. Just be like, nope, I'll just use my lesser used credit card. Beep.
Right.
I guess I included them on the list because more than half their employees are now cyborgs, which is interesting. I don't think that's ever happened in a company before.
No, that's cool. And it actually brought some people over here from Korea to interview, and they came and interviewed both of us, right?
Yeah.
So that got attention worldwide.
Uh-huh.
There's some, I think we both have tags on our skin from Amo, right?
Yeah. Amo Grafsta of dangerousthings.com.
He's been selling RFID and NFC implants as well as magnetic implants. This all came about because he was he working with RFID and just It occurred to him he wanted to have a tag so he could get into a door easily.
I know he's one of the people who got his implant to be recognized by his motorcycle, so he can just hop on without keys, and away he goes.
In a way, I mean, he's definitely a professional cyborg.
Yeah.
But what he's done, he's spawned an industry. Small at this point.
Yeah.
But it's still what he started. There's other companies doing this now, selling these.
Yep. Cybereyes.me. That's run by Alex Smith. I think that one's out of Australia. And I've got 2 implants from there.
I think all of mine are from AO.
Yeah.
They're all from Dangerous Things.
So next on our list, we have Kevin Warwick. He's an author and professor, and maybe we should have put him first because he was one of the first cyborgs, like cybernetic cyborgs.
And he's gone further than anybody, I think.
For his own prototyped hardware to be installed on himself.
Because he's internet connected, right?
Yeah, he's got an internet connected arm with his wife who has a similar procedure so that they can sense what the other person senses. That's far out.
Now, does Mrs. Warwick have an implant, or does she just have a worn device or something like that?
I thought she had the implant. The reason I remember that is because I heard some article that said Kevin Warwick must be the smoothest talker in the world because he convinced his wife to do the same procedure. And I got a kick out of that.
Oh, I did that too. So no, I don't know.
You must be. I mean, she was willing to have a kid with you.
Yeah, I haven't got her to sign on for a chip in her kid though yet.
Wait till the kid's at least 5.
Yeah. So there's some athletes, right?
Oh yeah,
I've seen a couple, but we have one on the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a few. Probably the most notable is Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius. Unfortunately, his notoriety is not so much based on his athletic career. However, it was before that. Blade Runner, because he has the lower leg augmentations. He lost his lower legs somehow and had them replaced with the carbon fiber bows. And I think, wasn't he an Olympic athlete?
I don't know. Hasn't there been, I know there's a woman who has very similar augmentation.
Yes.
And I remember recently seeing something that people were feeling that she has more, she's advantaged. She has an edge over the other athletes, right, which was interesting.
And I get that. People look at something different and somebody doing better with a difference, and they're like, oh, okay, that person has clearly got an edge.
I think that's an important point, isn't it? That's very important.
I think so.
Because it stops being these people aren't disabled. They're more able than the people, the very highly practiced, toned, and skilled athletes that they're competing against. And now they have something they're better. And that's cool.
Yeah. And it's not to say that they don't train equally hard.
Well, sure.
I mean, I can't go compete against an Olympic athlete, not with my body, no matter how many augments I get with current technology.
Or any kind of legs you could possibly put on you.
Well, unless they were gas-powered and connected to something that says Kia on the back, then I might stand a chance. In that I could run them over.
So there's somebody on Dancing with the Stars, I remember recently, right?
That would be Amy Purdy. She was the dancer with the one prosthetic leg. And I believe that was a very viral video of her first her first public dance after having her leg replaced. And I guess that's kind of a medical thing. She could not do what she does without this augmentation.
What does she do? Is she a dancer?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what she was.
I think so. Yeah. That's something.
Okay, cut that out. Don't let me make a fool of myself, Brian.
I would never, Tim.
Nobody
on this show has ever made a fool of themselves before. Ever.
Right.
So anyway, one of my former coworkers, she had to have a shoulder replacement because her shoulder gave out, and she was actually just a few years older than me. She was under 40 when her shoulder had to be replaced. And she had trouble coming to work. She couldn't lift anything. Anything heavier than a stapler, she had to carry in one hand, the not damaged shoulder hand. This was before the replacement. She was unable to do many of the things that were necessary of being in a small company because we had to wear so many hats. And while she typically was at a desk, there were plenty of times when it was necessary for her to move tables and things in the shop. And until she got that shoulder replacement installed and back up to speed. Without it, she was not able to perform at the capacity expected of her. And that kind of gets into, what's a medical cyborg, what's a professional cyborg. And there's in this case, there's a blurry line.
I think that for me to consider it a professional cyborg, the enhancement would have to be required for that specific position for anybody. Right. So, for like Neil Harrison, his augmentation is required for his type of, well, I guess, I don't know, is that doesn't even fit.
I would argue that without it, he would not be nearly as notable.
You're absolutely right.
In the case of these medical replacements that bring people back up to stock human capabilities, then they're probably medical cyborgs. Without these changes, they would not be in the workforce in the capacity they are.
But so what about in the future? Let's take this to the next level, or whatever you want to call it.
Let's do it.
Johnny Mnemonic. That's the sci-fi that sticks in my head when it comes to
That's your favorite movie.
I know. It's not exactly my favorite movie, but that's kind of where I guess I'd like to see things go in that direction, where you can get an augmentation that makes you more marketable, that makes you have a special skill.
Right. Maybe something that could modulate my voice.
I'd put $20 in a Kickstarter for that, Brian.
So would I.
I think maybe all of our listeners would.
But yeah, I suspect there are going to be certain circumstances. Imagine if you had eyeballs that had backscatter X-ray built into them and you worked for the TSA. Well, I guess that would lead into some pretty spooky stuff of what happens when you go home.
Well, I think we're going to see some stuff like that. Are there any augmentations that you can think of now? I guess right now, like with all the prosthetics, they don't seem to, maybe I'm wrong when I say this, but I don't see them actually looking to exceed standard human capability with these. So when your friend got her shoulder replaced, their goal was to restore native functionality.
Yeah, she didn't get Bluetooth with it.
Is there anything that's out there now that we could do that with? I mean, do we have the technology now to make that a super shoulder?
I think,
to make that so it lifts more than she would have been able to lift before.
Yeah, I think strength is probably going to be one of the first augments where we see human capability being surpassed by replacements. The problem, of course, with that is batteries. We don't have batteries big enough to do that for more than a few seconds. Right. Maybe supercapacitors are going to help us take a step in that direction, and literally help some people take a step in that direction.
Is there anything else you can think of that would maybe lend itself to that?
I think what we are going to see before that is going to be prosthetics and augmentations which allow for a greater range of movement. Right now, somebody with a prosthetic arm, there's no reason they couldn't have a wrist that can spin 360 degrees all day long. However, that wrist is probably going to be slow, and it's probably going to have a much lower strength than a standard human wrist. In some cases, that might be super useful.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can imagine a chef with a mixer arm. I think I saw somebody who had built a tattoo artist a custom arm which had this badass looking tattoo machine on the end, and it looked pretty cool. Like it looked like something out of a steampunk comic book.
Well, right there, that's a professional cyborg, right?
Yeah, and I didn't think of him before the show. Shame on me.
Yeah, that probably makes him more able and better at controlling that tattoo gun.
Yeah, it's probably second nature to him.
I almost did a reference to Edward Scissorhands.
Oh man, are you not drinking, Tim?
It's this late.
Get on that shit.
I should be.
I'm drinking coffee. Granted, it's only 8 o'clock here. Okay, I found the guy. His name is JC Shaitan Tennant, and he's French. So there you have it. If you want to see some cool pictures of a cool custom prosthetic, look this guy up. All right, and let's leave listeners with some mystery, because I suspect that there are some magicians using magnet implants to do some of their tricks. But of course, they're not going to tell us that they are. And maybe that'll keep the magic for some of you, and maybe it'll make you look twice. But I bet they're out there.
The cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah, now the secret's out. Now all the magic's gone. And with that sentence, I killed the last unicorn.
So I want to thank all of our listeners for listening. We'd like to invite you to email us at cyborgs@2cyborgs.com, or you can email Bryan directly at brian@2cyborgs.com or me at tim@2cyborgs.com.
We'd love to see you on 2cyborgs.com, our website. Come to our store and get a hooded sweatshirt like we've got. You get the 2 Cyborgs logo right on your tummy, so you can support our podcast in style. This is Brian McAvoy, and I bought the very first hoodie from that shop.
And this is Tim Shank. You have been listening to 2 Cyborgs and a Microphone, brought to you by 2 cyborgs who probably have microphones. Have we ever mentioned Patreon? Like ever? Just to be on the safe side, we have a link to Patreon on 2cyborgs.com. Help us fulfill our lifelong dream of becoming professional cyborgs. Hey, wait, but aren't we professional cyborgs?
We don't get paid.
Well, we're advertising Patreon. Some people have paid. We wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have implants. Bryan.
True. So when I said that 3 Square Market had more than half their employees being cyborgs, we've got 100%. And so does Dangerous Minds. They also have 100%.
Exactly.
Go us.
Mind blown.
You're welcome. Like, follow, share, +1, and don't forget to subscribe on any of the popular podcast services, including Google Play Music, iTunes, and Stitcher. Help us move up the podcast ladder by subscribing and commenting on iTunes.
And don't forget Twitter. You can reach us at 2 Cyborgs. That's the number 2 and Cyborgs.
One of the only companies with 100% cyborg employees.
Nice.